Are you ready? Now that's the funk, strike the funk, beat the funk, hype the funk, and all that junk. Y'all ready? Yeah. What channel? What station?
Today we're going to talk to you about the revolution of the iPod and how it changed the digital music industry forever.
What was it that turned a simple idea into the most recognizable cultural icon our world has ever seen?
Let's start from the beginning.
This is Steve Jobs, returning after being banned for 9 years from the company that he had once founded.
Steve Jobs founded Apple in 1976. In 1984, he was joined by John Sculley, who he handpicked to run the company. A year later, after an internal power struggle between the two, the board of directors sided with Sculley and Steve Jobs was banned from the company.
You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Steve then went on to create two more companies, Pixar Animation and Next Incorporated.
In 1997, Apple purchased Next Incorporated, bringing Steve Jobs back to Apple. 3 weeks later, the board of directors fired John Sculley, and Steve resumed his position as CEO of the company.
The first thing Steve Jobs did when he returned to Apple was slash the product line. He quickly eliminated Apple's foray into the PDA market, the new tune.
Sure enough, a year later, Apple releases the new iMac. The new colorful computer fits along perfectly with the new digital lifestyle. The iMac made it easy to check your email and surf the web.
I'd like to show you what this thing looks like. Come on in. You've got to see this thing in person, but I'll do the best I can with video. This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool.
In the first 50 days on sale, Apple sells nearly 300,000 iMacs. This is the start of a revolution in of itself. At the time, computers were big, square, and gray. When the youth of America saw these colorful Macs, sales really hit a home run.
I think if you do something and it turns out pretty good, then you should go do something else wonderful and not dwell on it for too long. Just figure out what's next.
Meanwhile, Tony Fadell, Chief Technology Officer over at Philips Electronics, had a new idea. He envisioned a compact hard drive MP3 player that was a lot smaller than any flash-based player currently in production.
Then Tony went to Apple. Steve Jobs immediately saw potential and took it in as his special project. Right then and there, he knew that if he could pull it off, it would be the next big thing in digital music.
Tony Fadell was given a development team of 30 people in 1 year to come up with a good product. The next 8 months would be the hardest 8 months Apple has ever seen. Steve Jobs had learned from Apple's previous mistakes, and he wasn't going to sell something if it wasn't absolutely perfect.
Steve Jobs was very precise about how he wanted the iPod to look. If there was anything wrong, even misplacement of a font, he would make the developers go back and completely rework the iPod software.
5 months into development, the project was coming along great. Right as Apple began to set up the manufacturing facilities, they discovered an issue with the iPod's power. The iPod would die after 3 hours, which was not acceptable.
3 months later, all the issues were fixed, and Steve Jobs was happy with the product. He invited the press to the opening keynote, teasing them saying, "It's not a Mac."
The next month, Steve Jobs introduced the iPod. He had the keynote in an old 1,000-seat auditorium. The place was filled with journalists that were just sitting there thinking, what is he talking about? No one thought that Apple would ever come out with such a music device, much less the most phenomenal music device the world has ever seen.
iPod has got Apple design. We got one of the best design teams in the world, and they have done a remarkable job. And let me show you. This is what iPod looks from the side. Again, about 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to show you the back first because I'm in love with it. It's stainless steel. It's really, really durable. It's beautiful. And this is what the front of it looks like. Boom. That's iPod. I happen to have one right here in my pocket, matter of fact. There it is, right there.
So when Steve Jobs pulled the iPod out of his pocket, the crowd just went wild. It was the start of a great new year for Apple and a revolution for the rest of us.
The amazing thing the iMac did for Apple is that it gave them a fan base. People who owned the iMac and loved it assumed that every product Apple came out with would be just as amazing. These are the people that went out and bought the first iPod.
Within the first 2 months, the iPod landed in the hands of over 125,000 of the world's biggest trendsetters. But it would be a stroke of pure luck that made everyone else nervous.
So 1, 2, 3, take my hand and come with me because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. I say you look so fine that I really want to make you mine.
The iPod, when it came out, was not the best player. It wasn't the least expensive, it wasn't the most capacious, but what it was a fashion statement. At the time, the iPod was like a piece of jewelry.
The iPod sparked so much interest in culture. It opened up markets in sports, entertainment, fashion, and auto, which is why it gained so much momentum.
The thing that really helped the iPod catch on was the white earbuds. Before Apple, no other company had cared about the color of the earbuds. People would see this weird accessory on one person and then another, and before they knew it, they wanted one too.
The design is really cool, I have to say. I don't know who your product designers are, but boy, you're not paying them enough.
The iPod's headphones were simply white, but the only reason Apple did this was so that the color would be consistent with the player. They had no clue that this would be the reason that the iPod would become so popular.
Another reason people liked the iPod so much was that it was so simple. Users could take their favorite CDs and put them into iTunes and bam, they're on your iPod.
When you have 1,000 songs on your iPod, you don't want to click through all of those songs just to find the one you were looking for. You wanted to be able to scroll through the list in seconds and immediately listen to the song. It made things so much easier and people noticed.
The big design story is clearly the interface, and I think the simplicity of the buttons and of the jog wheel completely belie how powerful, how effective the interface truly is. It's really, really straightforward. You can choose a song, an artist, or one of your own playlists.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's it. It's so simple.
Steve had successfully released the iPod, but it would take a stroke of pure luck to make the worldwide phenomenon.
During this time, Sean Fanning, a student over at Northeastern University in Boston, had one simple need. He wanted to be able to share music with his friends over the internet. There was no software available at the time that would let him do that, so him and his friend created one.
The service allowed you to search for songs, then download it over the internet from your friends for free.
It started as a service for just his friends, but soon enough the whole student body had the program. Within the first month it had over 26.4 million users worldwide. The ability to download music over the internet and not having to go to the store and buy it was really appealing to the youth culture.
The record industry was absolutely horrified by Napster. They tracked the company for months before they sued. At one point there was a meeting where all of the record companies sat down in front of a computer and just typed in the name of obscure songs or hit songs. Every single song they named was available from somewhere on Napster.
Soon after, Napster was placed on hold by a judge due to multiple lawsuits from the recording industry.
When Steve Jobs saw what Napster was doing and the positive feedback it was getting from its users, he realized that Apple was missing out on an amazing opportunity and immediately began to work on Apple's next big release.
Let's look at the upsides and the downsides to this from a user's point of view. First thing is, it's got a vast selection, better than any record. It demonstrated some things for us. It demonstrated that the internet was made for music delivery. And its offspring, Kazaa, is alive and well today, distributing lots of tracks. Now, there's a good side and a bad side to this. The good side is it offers users near instant gratification, at least as compared to going down to the record store, and again, shows that the internet was built for music delivery. But the downside is it's stealing.